Hello, welcome everyone to Loud and Proud Orlando. It's Monday, December the 29th, 6:31 p.m. The year is almost over. So we thank you for your support. We are live, about 12 people live right now and joining. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Um, Click the bell for all notifications. Subscribe. We're Loud and Proud Orlando. We're live. I'm here with David G today. We're going to be talking about several topics today that are definitely concerning our OCSC community. So stay tuned. We're going to be discussing how Orlando City got ghosted by Carlos Coronel. We'll also say goodbye to Luis Muriel, but we'll definitely break all that down. Nico Rodriguez with a new fade gets loaned to Atlético Nacional. We'll discuss that as well. Bembindo Luis Otávio, what his impact is going to be with the Lions. And then also we'll discuss who can be OCSC's new number 9. I know that we have a whole list of not names, some maybe desires. We'll discuss all of that with David today as well. And we'll give our grade on the free MLS free agency season, which we haven't seemed to be signing a lot. We've signed a couple of transfers from abroad, but we have not really signed anybody from the MLS pool, and other teams have. So we'll discuss that. We'll dive into all of that. Well, with that, David, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Welcome, and hopefully you had a very Merry Christmas with the fam. How's everything, my friend?
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Luis. Yeah, really good holiday. Just got to spend some much needed family time with the family, so that's always enjoyable. But the grind doesn't stop. We got some Orlando City to talk about and some really interesting stuff coming out this week. So I'm really curious to see kind of what our direction is going forward because it's going to get real interesting here.
100%. So, for starters, definitely one of the news that has really circulated literally it happened pretty much on the go. Carlos Coronel, the man you guys see over there, very highly praised by a lot of the fandom. Um, because of his wonderful performances, not only against Orlando City, but just in the MLS, top three keeper in the MLS, his numbers, his age, it just everything seemed to click and make sense. Well, he decided to, after verbally agreed to deal with Orlando City and even completed a medical, apparently, he abruptly went silent with Orlando City. The ghosting occurred due to that he received offers from uh, home teams, from some of his home teams in Brazil, definitely with sources indicating that he's definitely going to Sao Paulo FC, which is where he kind of, he was part of the Sao Paulo Academy. So despite giving his word to Orlando City and pretty much having everything good to go, they even, I believe, they had already a welcome Carlos Coronel graphic. Um, you know, Unfortunately, this didn't work out, and he decided to go to Brazil. The front office of Orlando City, emphasized through Tom Bogert that definitely they only want players that are committed to the club, and the there's nothing to worry about. They're already exploring alternatives, like maybe pursuing other goalkeepers. There's a couple of other goalkeepers available. I'm sure we'll discuss that in just a moment. But this is a very similar situation what would happen with Elias Manuel. So it is a little bit frustrating, but that's something that we have to understand. I kind of understand, and I feel like we're going to be okay. I think I'll go keeping corpses pretty strong with Otero, even though people don't agree with that. But if they decide to go to the Otero route, he's a very, we'll dive into that, but definitely a bad taste in our mouth. What are your thoughts on what happened with Coronel, David?
Yeah, I mean, really odd situation, right? Normally, when Tom Bogert reports something, it's pretty much a slam dunk, and obviously nothing on Tom on this one. No one really saw this coming. I think what makes this even worse is kind of twofold, right? Number one, we were really excited about this guy being the replacement for Galese. We really thought the quality was there, and obviously, if you look at the numbers, he was even better
100%.
than Galese was, and so you can really like that. And he didn't have as many of the howlers that Galese had over the last season and a half. So that was the first part of everyone got so excited and so okay, great, we're gonna be in a great spot. This is gonna be awesome. And then when you see the news and sort of the specifics that Tom Bogert put out there, it turned into things like he just went quiet on the team for a couple of days, and the team was like, hey, are we still good, or we're still doing this and all that kind of stuff. And to your point, I also kind of heard that the graphics and everything was ready to go, and they were ready to announce this guy pretty soon and everything. And then all of a sudden the news comes out from Brazilian media, more specifically the folks that cover Sao Paulo, were like, hey, he's coming here, he's going to back up our guy, he might compete for the number one spot because their keeper, I guess, is getting older. So this was something that they were kind of looking forward to. And then, of course, there were the connections that this was his boyhood club, and he would watch Sao Paulo a lot and all that kind of stuff. And for those of you that don't know, yes, he represents Paraguay in the international stage, but he comes from a split family. So he's raised Brazilian and then has the Paraguayan connection. So that's why there's a little bit of a Brazilian connection here. I think the thing that does the most damage for me is, of course, the sort of ghosting and not really telling the club about, what you're looking for, but it doesn't make sense career move wise, right? His whole goal was to start now, get as many games as he could, and compete for the number one spot at the World Cup, because Paraguay, I guess, goes between him and somebody else. And I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with the Paraguayan team, but again, doesn't make a ton of sense. He's not going to start for Sao Paulo coming out of the gate. The fans for Sao Paulo have already said that. So that's kind of a weird move. Yeah, he might get more money, but I don't think it's going to be much more, especially if he's going to be a backup. So we'll see what that figure looks like. And again, I don't know that it matters, but to really add the icing on top of the cake, from what I was able to gather from folks that cover Sao Paulo and some other people who have covered the league and the Red Bulls and things like that, it sounds like the agent got involved in these conversations, and it really twisted sort of where he ended up going. From what I heard, and again, I have not been able to corroborate this one way or another 100%, but the agent apparently got a little bit of something from Sao Paulo for having Coronel go there. Now, if he stayed within the league, I believe in those contracts and stuff like that, the agent would still get something. It's not a lot, though, and I think with Sao Paulo, he ended up getting more money out of this as well. So I was hearing that there were some people in Coronel's ear that said something about this. More than anything, though, I think it's unprofessional. I think it's really. I'm glad we found about it now than later, because then obviously this gives us an opportunity to move forward to other targets that want to be here and play for Orlando. Because I do think this is a destination that players want to play at. So really unfortunate, really frustrating. I think like a lot of people, I vented my frustrations online, and off screen as well. But better we learn now than later. And sort of with you, I like Otero. I think he's in a good spot. I still would love to see another good to really good keeper come in and kind of compete with him. Because again, like I've said in previous shows, I think iron sharpens iron. So the better players that we have competing against each other, the better. So I think this is a great opportunity. Now, if I'm Otero, I would take this and say, hey, listen, this is my spot until somebody's going to come over here and take it from me. And I think that's the mindset he should have right now, if he hasn't already, which he may. I don't know. I don't know him very well. But if he doesn't, that's the mindset he should have right now, because right now he's the starter going into opening day.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of things being thrown out. If I want to be completely honest, I mean, you get rid of Galese because of his high salary, and he didn't had the numbers to, he wasn't worth what he was asking, right? That's a whole deal. And then another side of why Galese is gone is because of his youth, and he's definitely aging and all that stuff. But then on the other side, we maintain the coach, we maintain the front office, and we do have Otero, which I mean that's what I always thought it was going to kind of cover Galese. I never really thought, on a personal note, that they were going to go aggressively for a goalkeeper. It was a surprise to me when I heard about Coronel. I mean, a great surprise because he's a great goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. But I said, okay, cool. We're going aggressively for a number one. Well, Otero's going to have to wait. He's going to play with Paraguay. He's going to have plenty of time and games for Otero to kind of prove himself, quotation marks, right? In the MLS to show what he's worth. So I feel, based on that Coronel, I know what you say, has probably a lot to do with it. Somebody was telling him in his ear 100%, and this happens to a lot of players that are ready to play World Cup and they're ready to play major tournaments with their national team. So we have to understand that the Brazilian market and the Brazilian league, it's a step above MLS. That's number one. And so for a coach like Alfaro, which is the national team coach, which actually happened with Peru, with Galese, when Peru went to the World Cup in 2018, he wanted all of his team, his first squad, to be in competitive clubs and competitive leagues. And there is this, and I think I've mentioned this before in the pod, there's this stigma of the MLS that people still, especially old guard coaches, feel like this is where dinosaurs go to die. You know what I mean? And it's really like, even if you're a backup of a backup in Brazil, you're still better off going to play for like Cincinnati or Orlando or Portland. You know what I mean? So they have that stigma, like Gareca, which used to be the Peruvian coach when Peru went to the World Cup in 2018. He hated the MLS, but he had no choice. Yotun, was playing parts in Mexico. Galese was in Orlando, and they had a lot of minutes, and so he kind of had to put his foot down. But like, there were players, for example, that he benched because they went to play to Saudi Arabia, or told them, okay, if you take the Saudi Arabia money, even though there's going to be more money for you, you have to understand you're not going to have a place in the first team for the World Cup or for the Copa America. So that could probably be it. It is shitty, like 100%. I tell the fans, it is shitty. I was disappointed, but it is kind of, in a way, it is the way the game's played.
Luis,
you know what I mean?
to go back to your point, though, I understand the whole, you're better off being in the bench in the Brazilian league, and sure, we can have that discussion, but I don't think you do at goalkeeper, because at goalkeeper, you're not going to get substitute minutes, right? You're just not going to get minutes at all. And I know the one benefit of the Brazilian league is they play in a lot of competitions, and Sao Paulo is probably going to play in a ton of competitions between now and the World Cup. So maybe he's got that going for him. Yeah, so maybe he's going to have that going for him, and that's good. But I think as a goalkeeper, I think you're putting yourself at a very high risk of not getting regular minutes. We've seen other national
No, I
teams
agree with you.
with goalkeepers who basically are like, if you're not starting, you're not playing. I mean, look at the U.S. Kind of an example, because some of the goalkeepers are up and down and whatever. But like, Turner got out of the conversation because he wasn't playing regular minutes when he went to Europe, right? And there's the argument that if he had stayed in MLS and got regular minutes, would he still be easily the number one? And we're not having a discussion about who's there, right? But look at Matt Freese, who went and started for the U.S. the last couple of windows. That guy stayed in MLS, but he's been a starter for NYCFC for a while. So, I mean, best of luck to him. I don't want to curse them. I don't do any of that. I know some people are online doing all that, and that's fine if that's the way you look at it. Cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really disappointing. I think it's a bad reflection of character and who's in his circle, to be honest with you. I hope it works out for him, but I would not be surprised if this guy comes back to MLS in the future and says, I couldn't get the minutes I wanted to down there. somebody please take me or take a flyer on me. I hope he can make it work,
Now,
but
now, if you feel froggy, and I tell people, if you feel froggy, and you think that I am here, and I'm, I literally, I agree why the wanting to sign Coronel. I agree. Like, I'm with you. What I'm trying to say is that we, as a club, we got to be ready for some players not to have the most ethical sense, and that's unethical. What he did is, yeah, after pretty much having the whole deal almost closed, backing out last minute. It happens with when you buy a car. It happens with when you buy a house. It just happens when you go and they try to pitch you a timeshare. It just happens. You just
sure.
And it's unfortunate, but we gotta move on. I feel like if the club is saying that they have a plan B, let's see what happens. We can speculate about, I personally, if you ask me, and again, it's opinions, right? I personally feel, look, if you feel froggy, go for Otero, because, he's Venezuelan national team scouted, already part of the Venezuelan system. They're not in the World Cup. So he's going to spend more time with MLS, which is actually better for us. He's not going to be gone a while, and people complain that Pedro will go play some games with the national team. Well, he's going to be here, but, also there's another option that is getting other keepers in the free agency roster, which you have, obviously we're not going to get Brad Guzan, obviously, but there's people like Maxime Crepeau, you know what I mean? Which it's not ideal, but he's available. I know that Sean Johnson, was he picked up, David?
He's
Sean
going
Johnson?
to DC. Yeah, he's going to DC,
right? Yeah, so he's so I it's unfortunate, but I just really think that we will move on. I think Orlando, I kind of understand why the club told Bogart, we want players that want to play here. After going the whole Muriel thing, that's happening. We want players that, and I agree. You want players that want to play, and in the end, it's all math, right? What's going to work. What's also going to sell. Because if you have a chance to get somebody like Gabby Goal, or somebody like, for example, a top striker, and spend a little more on that striker, but spend a little less being within budget for a goalkeeper, and maybe giving Otero that chance, maybe that's what the club may do. I do feel, though, they're going to get another keeper. I know, because
well, they have to. They have one on roster right now, so you got to get another one.
No matter what. Yeah, so you're completely right. So let's read some comments real quick. Frankie Cosmos, I heard Coronel heard Luis call the signing a lateral move and back. There you go. That's a good one. Daniel Vega, 5513. It's St. Clair taken and he's still free. No, yeah, he's going to Inter Miami.
Going to Miami.
Guys, I mean, it's because it's a cool kids club, right? I mean, they got Messi, they just became champions, and again, it's just he just wants to play. He wants to, with Minnesota, you don't get a lot of press. You get less press than Orlando if you're in Minnesota. So, again, he wants to go with the flashing lights in South Hollywood, right?
And Luis, that's fine, because when we hang 3 or 4 goals on them each game next year, it won't matter.
Right.
So won't matter.
Yeah, it says, based on Bogart's tweet, sounds like they already have other goalkeeper options targeted. So I don't think it'll be Otero, maybe Maxime Crepeau. Yeah, I mean, Crepeau, we can discuss that later, but it doesn't seem very far-fetched. And I do agree that the club is going to get another goalkeeper no matter what. If you're a bench in Brazil, says Alonso, you have better chance to play in your national team and start. It says, hello from Sao Paulo. It says, Citrus Paddle. I like David G on the show. Compliments you guys well. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Yeah. Salty H2O. We lost what I was most exciting for our goalie. Yeah, I know.
Salty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it was his decision. Who knows? What if, again, it could happen. I mean, I don't wish him ill intent, but it could
Right.
happen, David, that, he's playing his first game and then, broke his hand. Oh, broke my hand, bro. Broke my hand. You know,
It's true.
it's true. I mean, it is true. It is true that he could be ghosted by Sao Paulo. Say, okay, you're going to be backup. You're going to be third stringer. And then he's be like, yo, I should have taken Orlando City, bro. I could have been playing playoffs right now. I could be.
I think he's gonna regret it. I mean, I don't because based on all what the fans said, the fans are like, there's no way he gets a shot at number one and anytime soon. So again, that's why I think it's a weird move for a goalkeeper. If you're a position player where you could potentially get sub minutes and all that kind of stuff, sure. But he's not. He's a goalkeeper. You don't sub goalkeepers. So that's why I think it's strange. Honestly.
Mr. Kenneth Allen says, I pray we have Freeman one more season. He says, I can still believe we got ghosted by that bum. Says Daniel Vega. Thank you so much. That was Carlos Coronel. We'll see what happens. Who do you think will be a good goalkeeper? Maxime Crepeau, maybe? MLS ready?
Probably out of everyone else that's left, he's probably the best one to try to, kick the tires on and see if he's got something there. The only other one I would try potentially, but I wouldn't want him to be the starter. This would more be like if you just want depth, is a guy like David Bingham or something like that, just to bring in a guy who's been around for a while. But I think really the other thing that people aren't thinking about is you could also look at some of these rosters that have 2 or 3 goalkeepers, like solid 2 or 3 goalkeepers, and go in there and start scooping up some of those guys, like the number 2 guy that they're not going to play. Give them you're probably gonna have to give them an offer a little bit more than what you want to do, but maybe you give them a little bit of Don Garber cash or whatever. You splash some Don Garber cash and bring them over there and do that. Or the other route is a lot of these MLS Next Pro teams are getting better and better every year. Go steal a goalkeeper from one of those. I mean, most likely Otero ends up the starter in that situation, but this other guy could also be pretty good, and he'll be your backup. And again, you kind of have 2 players who maybe don't have a lot of MLS minutes, but could make each other better by doing something like that. So that's also a possibility. And then also look at the stack of college goalkeepers that were seniors and didn't get drafted in the draft. There's a couple of those guys available who aren't out there. I know we found out afterwards that like Mitch Budler and Logan Erb, who both were supposed to be draft eligible but did not get drafted, they were put under a designation called the homegrown protected. That happens for college players who technically have enough service to be protected by the club that they were working with in the academy. You might call about those. Call Philly, call, I think it's NYCFC is the other one. Call those 2 teams and say, hey, we know that they're protected by you guys, but we're really interested. We'll throw some cash your way. Yeah, what do you? Yeah, sure. But we'll throw some cash or a player your way. Can we make this happen and get one of those guys that maybe you didn't have a chance for?
Yeah, that'll be a great idea. Or I mean, wasting an under 22. I mean, I would hate to call it wasting, but I think we could get a really good goalkeeper, a gem, a diamond in the rough. In the collegiate.
Luis, can you pull up Daniel's last comment, because I think it's interesting. He is so that is true. They do have a really good second keeper, but he's going to start for them this year. Stefan Fry is going to back him up, so I doubt he's available at this point. But that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about, though. Is that when you start to see those switches, like Nashville's doing that with Willis. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's going to want to move his family, but he wouldn't be a bad guy to lead the goalkeeper room, to be honest with you. But Nashville's doing that this season as well. Like Willis is going to take the number 2 spot, and they're going to put their young guy up as their number 1 guy. So a lot of clubs are doing that. So maybe you make an offer that convinces them and say, hey, we'll pay you a little bit of funny money to bring them over here.
Maybe Orlando could have done that last year. You know what I mean? But again, we can't be crying over the spoiled milk already. What's done, it's done, and we just have to move on. But again, thank you for your comments. We appreciate you. We're about 65 people live. We appreciate you. Drop us a comment and subscribe to the channel. Now, with Coronel, It comes with news literally today. Well, this happened yesterday, but we covered it today, and I actually translated the footage, and we're gonna discuss Luis Muriel because that's the next topic. And at first, I kind of wanted to, it is how a player handles certain things. And I think we mentioned it here at the pod. His heart was never in the MLS. I think he felt just like a lot of people in South America feel sometimes that the MLS is a cash grab, and then you take the cash and run. And I feel like his heart was just never in it. And clearly that's what it is. He arrived into Colombia after having a terrible season, and then starts getting half naked, shooting fireworks, eating arepas, and going ape shit in with Junior de Barranquilla winning the championship there in Colombia. So is he done at Orlando City? I think this footage confirms it. Let's play it real quick, and I'm gonna kind of translate it.
En que te vas a ponerle al tiburón.
It says, I think you're gonna wear the jersey of Junior de Barranquilla, right? He's like, let's see.
¿Qué prometes tú si llega?
What do you promise when you get there?
¿Qué prometes tú? Tienes que hacerte cargo.
Promise if you arrive.
Yo me hice cargo.
I already did what I had to do. I already took charge. People already know. I already did my part.
La pelotica está del otro lado.
The ball is on the other side, so the ball's on their court.
Estoy esperando, estoy aquí.
I'm just waiting here on my tippy toes. Where are my tippy toes?
Estoy esperando nada más.
I'm just waiting so they can tell me,
Pero promete llegar a la final.
Do you promise to reach the Libertadores final?
La Libertadores.
Sí, papi,
Yes, I'm gonna try. So pretty much he's really ready to go back to Colombia. So I feel he kind of hinted at his own exit, in my opinion, after this. And I think, and I do kind of, all jokes aside, I think it's a little unprofessional, again, but he's entitled to that. And again, we want players that want to play for the club. We don't want players that are not going to give the fans 120%. Yet alone, if let's say the club decides for the money to have him stay and do preseason, I think it'll be one of the worst mistakes that the club can make. And I say it right now. I think having him will be bad. I think the fans, when he comes in and the STMs show up and the fans in the wall and it's the first game, they're going to boo him out of the building. I think that's the way I feel. Again, no disrespect to what he's accomplished in Italy or whatnot, but we're in Orlando. This is the United States, and put some respect of our name. That's all I'm going to say. Put some respect on my name.
I'll tell you this, Luis. His name will not be in the rafters. He's not going to be in the Legends Terrace. I can tell you that right now. The first thing I'm going to say about this is I'm calling Muriel's BS, because that's what this is. It's BS. The whole I'm on my tippy toes, the ball's in their court, all this kind of stuff, BS. Because we know that the club tried to work out a few deals with him, especially early in the offseason, to say, hey, thanks so much. Let's shake hands. We'll see each other later, whatever. And what did we find out? He wanted the money. And we get it. It's $4 million. He wants the money. It's understandable. But you can't sit here, and I know he's playing to the fans a little bit, and I know he's playing to the media over there and all that kind of stuff, but you can't sit here with a straight face and tell us that you really want to be at Junior and that it's nothing on me at this point and woe is me and blah, 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 blah. No, it's not. It was on you, because if you had simply went to Orlando and said, you know what, you don't want to pay me the $4 million, that's fine. Pay me $2 million and I'll get out of here. You'll do, that's fine. We'll just part ways or do that. Or pay me $1.5 million and I'll get out of here. He didn't want to do that. So this is the situation that we're in. It's going to happen anyway. Orlando City's going to probably have to pay around 2 million, maybe 2.5 million in order to part ways after they do the sort of loan to Junior, and then we pay the rest of it to get him off the books. But I'm not buying any of this, Luis. I'm sorry. It's a pony show.
Yeah.
He's just trying to show off for them. And then the other thing is, I hate to break it to him, they're not winning Copa Libertadores. There's no way. I'm sorry. Like, Junior's a good team, but they're not winning Copa. Like, come on. I know he's playing to the fans and all that kind of stuff and whatever, but let's just get this done. Send the paperwork to Orlando, which we've heard Junior apparently did already, so let's hope they did. Send the paperwork to Orlando. Let's agree on the number. Let's sign the check, and let's let this guy stay in Colombia. He can have his real estate agent or business manager sell his house in Orlando, and let's move on. Because I don't want to see that guy in the stadium again. I don't think anybody really wants to see him in the stadium again. And sort of to your points that you made earlier, if he even shows up for preseason, I think people are going to be upset if they see his name on the roster for preseason.
100%. I mean, he just killed whatever. I mean, if the front office is watching, which I know that hopefully they are, I mean, it's just what we believe. At least I believe strongly. I think he's going to be booed out of the building. I don't think it's going to be good for even the team sentiment if on one side you're preaching culture and you're preaching that, you know, you want to change things around, have a winning culture. This is not a winning culture. He's clearly here. He was here to collect the check. Oscar tried. Ricardo tried. He had a little bit of a couple of good games, and then it didn't work out. And in the end, you know, the team drives his energy from the fans. And if the fans are disappointed that this was a bust signing, which, I mean, I'm going to just call it straight up, it was a bust signing, the club needs to cut the losses. You know, it is definitely a disappointing stint in the MLS, to say the least, by Luis Muriel. His contract runs through 2026. Is a $3 million annually salary. Obviously, Orlando is open to.
It's closer to 4. It's closer to 4.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So obviously, OCSC is open to a loan or transfer, willing to cover a portion of the wages to free up the DP slot. So Junior right now has the upper hand right now. They are definitely, they're not controlling negotiations, but I think Orlando, with this specifically, I think Orlando's going to cut their losses. I really would like to believe that Orlando is not going to say, hey, you know, just come back to preseason. We don't, you know, we don't want to lose that money. I think this is when you show kind of what your ambition is in a way. You know, you either want to make the team better and say this is not a rebuild, this is a reload, you know, or you're going to just, you know, shit on everybody and just keep this guy, right? Just because you don't want to lose through, you know, 1.5 million, right? So Muriel has already publicly acknowledged his desire to leave. This is fully proof. I mean, what else can you say? The Instagram live that happened yesterday with Theo Gutierrez, one of the legends there, teasing Muriel about Junior. It is a done deal, in my opinion. I know that we have a big Colombian community in Orlando, and I know a lot of people really feel really strongly. I know I saw on Facebook a lot of people that are Colombian saying, "Oh, you know, it's not Luis Muriel, it's the coach, is this and that." I think it's him. And with all due respect, I think at this point it's him. I mean, yeah, it could be Oscar too. I mean, Oscar's not perfect on certain games. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely judge the quality of his coaching 100%. I mean, it happens to every major coach, even Mourinho, Guardiola, you know, every single coach. But I think with him is a little bit of like, it's a different situation now. You know what I mean? It's a little disrespectful. And definitely we need to be having that spot open so we can make a splash signing, a signing that's going to complement the good thing that Pasalic did last season, the good thing that Martin Ojeda did last season, the good season that Gervais had last season. That was a worker until he got injured. Why not a spicy tea as well, you know. So you imagine bringing somebody that's already saying this. A lot of all the players look at our social media and they're seeing this. It's like, yo, is this guy gonna come back to the group? Like it just doesn't cut it.
Well,
David.
Luis, think about how Duncan McGuire must feel, right? Like, you know, technically he's behind this guy in the depth chart right now. And like, do you want to be playing behind a guy in the depth chart that's doing this kind of stuff? Headed down to Colombia, he's partying all off season. He just recently, a couple days ago, shot a video of him in the gym, but he hasn't been in the gym all off season. So, for those of you that don't follow Luis Muriel, he catalogs everything. Like everything he does in the off season has been on his Instagram story and on his Instagram posts. He's active as all heck. So if he went to the gym before that, we didn't see it, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't at the gym. So if I'm Duncan McGuire, especially, I'm looking at this guy going, are you serious? Like, this guy can't be on the roster next year, because at this point, you know, Duncan's been in the gym. He's been working. He's been doing the things he wants to do. To me, Duncan's got the keys, whether this guy's back or not. I mean, honestly. And the nice thing is, too, I know you were talking about how Junior has the upper hand, and they do to a degree, of course. There are other teams in Colombia that are also interested in Luis Muriel's services. They're going to be more interested once they figure out kind of what the numbers are and what's out there. So if for some reason this Junior thing really does fall through and the ownership isn't willing to pony up the money, I think there is another team, probably in South America in the greater large, but probably in Colombia, who will pony up the portion of whatever they need to pony up in order to bring this guy in, because the Colombians think this guy still has some juice left. And maybe he does, but he doesn't for us. And so at this point, it's thanks so much. See you later, buddy. We'll help pack your bags and send it to Colombia, but we're not interested anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Let's read some comments. Landon says Muriel shouldn't be back in Orlando unless he's moving out. You're gonna call college guys hauling junk. You know, this is a free plug right there. Frankie Cosmos, only 4 guys to score a hat trick in purple and gold. Carlos Rivas, Kyle Aaron, Ojeda, Luis Muriel, club legend, hang the jersey. There you go. The Nerdiverse, let's get rid of Muriel and put Tesho. Let's put in Tesho from retirement. Man, he's doing a lot of real estate. But hey,
I was gonna say he's busy urban planning and stuff. He doesn't have time for all that.
Is the Richarlison rumor still a thing? Because we can use the money from Muriel to buy him. Well, I guess there's a rumor about Richarlison too, but I mean, we're gonna discuss the number 9 in just a second. Thank you, Daniel. As he's now winning Libertadores, it is a tough tournament, and always is either Brazilians or Argentinians playing the final. Citrus Battle, let's take the Muriel money, no lowball offers, please. Frankie Cosmos, not to be that guy, but has Pedro signed any paperwork yet? Yes, it's a done deal. Yeah, he was presented today. He did a video and all of that. So yeah, it's done. And plus, I don't think I don't think it would work that way. So we already kind of talked about Muriel, and now we're gonna discuss another situation. And this, again, you know, obviously we joke around a lot, you know, sometimes, especially me, with my sarcastic humor. And again, I apologize if you're not used to that. But obviously, we you know, Nico Rodriguez is no longer a Orlando City player, at least for this year. The news are that he's going to be loaned out to Atlético Nacional. This is coming from really good sources in Colombia. 1-year loan. It's going to be a option to buy 60% of his rights. So it's around 1.6 million. So we made 100K. Literally, we can make a little more. So
no, it'll be more than that, because I don't think, because the 1.5 that he came over on had incentives in it, and I'm almost positive he didn't reach those incentives because he didn't get enough playing time.
Yeah, so performance-wise, he really wasn't a standout. You know, he showed promise that when he was signed as a under 22 initiative player, but struggled for minutes in a crowded winger group, I feel. And, you know, I think the MLS exposure in a way helped him to build his profile. For having somebody like Atlético Nacional pick him up is coming from Orlando City, from the MLS, is because they see that, if the MLS wanted him, they saw something in him. So in a way, it helped him. I don't think the exposure hurt him at all. It didn't work for us. Definitely limited play time, and this is because his camp, and I'm going to say this per sources, his camp says it was a coach related decision, but I highly disagree. I mean, we can see it in practice. We could see it also when he came in. He was extremely green physically. His camp blamed that the whole immigration process was a nightmare, and that was one of the reasons why he couldn't make preseason, and they're blaming that for him not having minutes as well. I mean, the club is with his hands tied. They have to wait in line just like everybody else. And I know it's unfortunate, but right now also what I found out, and this is some news, is that he's having a family situation. There is a member of his family that's very sick, and he's looking into that side too, because he's a head of household at his young age, because he comes from extreme poverty, kind of like where Luis Diaz was brought up. And he has to be with his family. This comes in the right time. And I mean, it sounds messed up what I'm about to say, but it kind of comes at the right moment, I think, this departure in a way for him, because he feels like in Colombia is his style, more like, there's numbers of him already in the Liga stats, his cultural familiarity, the potential to shine in a big club like Nacional, probably the biggest, most well-regarded club there, which he has national team ambitions, and and also he'll be close to family in case that relative does not do good. He's there for his mom, he's there for his brothers, for his family, and he's not going to have to do the whole back and forth from the United States. Now, also he could go extremely opposite, and he could do tremendously great for Atlético Nacional, and he could score like 11 goals and have 5 assists and probably a national team stint. Or it could go the other way. It could have like 1 goal and be a turnover machine. It could go both ways. We don't know, but I think it was a good deal for the club, because I think the club right now wants ready to go. Like, they want somebody that's higher impact, and I think Pasalic and the winger corps that Orlando City has is pretty deep, and they feel pretty confident. So I think it opens a U22 spot for new talent. So, unfortunately just didn't live up to the hype. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of this, David? I think it's a smart roster move. I don't know. What are your
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts?
I'll say this. I feel bad for the kid that it didn't work here, and if he felt like there was a lot of pressure and a lot of issues standing in his way. I mean, it could have been a coaching thing. You never know. Oscar normally has his guys, but his guys tended to be Colombians last year. I don't want to group them all together, but his guys tended to be that. But I think, to your point, he was just a little too green. I know he did well with his previous club before we bought him and brought him in and everything. But
it was a very small club, dude. It's like
yeah.
one of the smallest clubs in Colombia.
Yeah. So, I'll say this, I think it's a win-win for both parties, right? I think it's a win
agree.
because if Atlético Nacional is going to play him, great. He's going to get some playing time. He's going to be closer to family, which you mentioned, which, obviously I didn't know about that personal stuff, so I feel for him, whatever that looks like, and however he needs to obviously tend to them and whatnot. But for us, it's a benefit because he wasn't on a big salary, so I imagine Atlético Nacional is going to cover that. I'd be shocked if they didn't cover the whole thing. So that's going to open up a U22 spot for us, which is great because we can do a couple of different things with it. But then also on top of it, if he does well, we can sell him because there's, the rumor is that there's going to be a buy option, which I think I was advocating for last week. He's going to have a buy option. And even if Atletico doesn't buy him, that doesn't mean one of the other Colombian teams might not buy him if he's there, if he has a good enough season. And then if he doesn't have that great of a season, I think that's where things get a little weird. If his season isn't great and his loan is done, Orlando City will have a decision to make, obviously, because if nobody wants to buy him down there, he'll obviously come back. So we'll have to make a decision. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we sell him at a little bit lower of a cost to somebody. If somebody's like, hey, I won't buy him for 1.6, but I'll buy him for $1 million, or I'll buy him for this. That's just us really trying to recoup what we paid for him on. I don't think we're looking to get some kind of big sell on or anything like that. So what's interesting though, and I kind of want to touch on the U22 spot, that opens up a lot of doors for us. So I don't think we need to go and necessarily use it on a winger because, to your point, we're deep on wingers right now. We've got Spicer, Angulo, Thiago, Sukata, Caraballo, Pasalic. So you've got, 6 wingers right there. That's pretty 100%. Good in terms of depth across the board. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, striker's an option if you want to go young. The other thing is, if it helps get Alex Freeman across the board. I know a lot of people have been 100%. Pushing to use the U22 spot on him. But for those of you that don't understand the mechanic of this, I want to explain this just a little bit because I saw some confusion online. What the U22 spot would do for us with a player that comes from within the league, so whether they're homegrown or somebody that you sign from their academy, it opens up the ability for us to pay him as much as we want to pay him, but only hits the salary cap at a smaller number. I think it's like 100,000 or 150,000. So when you're going to do the salary cap budget, again, a bunch of MLS mechanism stuff that maybe a lot of people don't want to get into, but let's say we want to pay him $500,000 or we want to pay him $750,000. I don't know how much we actually want to pay him. What happens is against the cap, we would only be charged $150,000. But then the owners out of their pockets would pay the rest of it to pay him whatever we're going to end up paying him. So
that's what
it's a really nice piece of business because then what you do twofold, of course, as well is, for those of you that know, Freeman's in his option year. So in June, after the World Cup, he can walk if he wants to walk. So one of the things that we can do is if we can lock him up, let's say add an extra year onto it, but say, hey, we'll sell you if X amount of teams come calling, and you could list by team, you could list by league. It really just depends on what agreement you come to with Freeman. Then we could actually get paid for Alex Freeman. And in the short term, all we would have to do is just put a little bit extra money out of our pocket towards his wage, which he deserves, obviously, after last season.
100%.
And then if he balls out at the World Cup, you're talking about getting $7, $8, $9, $10 million for this guy if he does well at the World Cup. And you've already made the promise to him that you'll sell him onto Europe. So it's a win-win for everybody. He gets the playing time he wants in the beginning of the season. He gets to play with the U.S. men's national team at the World Cup. And then we go and say, hey, thanks, Alex, for everything. If you want to go to Spain, we'll send you to Spain. You want to go to England, we'll send you to England. You want to go to, wherever, we'll send you there. Here you go. Thanks so much. We appreciate it. And he's on your way. And all you're really doing, let's say he's on 500,000. All you're going to have to do is pay him 250,000 for the first part of the season. And then whatever club he goes to is going to pick up the rest of that when they go and buy him and do all that kind of stuff. And they're going to negotiate a new wage and all that. So it's a fun mechanism to use for Alex Freeman if you want to go do that. Obviously, Orlando City's been used to using it as external transfers. So for like Otavio and for Thiago, it turns into a thing of their transfer fee doesn't hit the salary cap budget. That's the reason why you do it. You can keep them at a lower number and all that kind of stuff. So that's the nice benefit there. But for an internal, homegrown, or an academy kid, you can use it as a mechanism to pay a guy what he's actually worth, but not hit your salary cap at such a large number.
Yeah, that's very smart, and I think that'll be a fantastic idea. All clubs do it. LAFC does it, Miami does it, Cincinnati does it. So it's time that Orlando, again, we want to change the culture. We want to impact. We want to get players that are gonna make an impact in the starting 11. Freeman is an important piece of the puzzle. It's been an important piece of the puzzle the whole last season. So I think he's the face of the franchise, if you ask me. I think he's the guy who should be, if he decides to stick around with Orlando. I'll make him the face of the franchise. I mean, no disrespect to Ojeda, to Jansen, to to all the other guys. I just think Freeman, embodies what Orlando City is. So I will be ready to take that load. But I think it's a fantastic idea. I think that's what Orlando needs to do. I'm glad that.
So, Luis, to comment on Alonso's thing about it not being a win-win, disagree. The reason why it didn't work last time is we blocked him to go abroad once because Villarreal lowballed us, number one, from what we understand. And secondly, we asked the player to wait. What I'm suggesting here, Alonso, that I think you might be missing a little bit of the detail point that I'm trying to make, is in the contract, if he were to sign a new contract with Orlando City, which he may not want to do, it all depends on Freeman at this point.
He may not want
but
to.
if you sign the contract with Freeman, what I'm suggesting is his agent would put in the contract language such as, if an offer from this league, this team, whatever that might be, if it comes calling, Orlando City needs to accept the offer. And they can put stipulations in it. We've seen that in MLS before. It isn't new. It's new with the U22 spot because we haven't seen a lot of teams use it as the U22 person. But it's not uncommon for MLS contracts to have that in there. If you've watched the league for a while, that's kind of how some of these things worked out. The biggest name that you can think of where something like this happened was Alphonso Davies from Vancouver.
Yeah.
In his last contract with Vancouver, he had written into his contract that he had stipulations if certain teams came calling, Vancouver had to pick up the phone, listen, and accept an offer if it was within a certain range. So if it gets within a certain range, Orlando City is going to see out to it. I don't see us as a club that's like, no, we're going to hold on to this guy. We're not sending him anywhere. We've never made that impression. Ricardo himself has said on multiple occasions, if the player wants to go and we want to fulfill their dreams, we're going to go do it. And they've done that. If there hasn't been a lot of like, hey, we're not going to do that for you. I mean, look at all the players. Duncan McGuire, it failed, but we tried. Daryl DK, Kyle Aaron got a little fuzzy. There's some things about there, but there's a lot of players that you can go through to say Orlando City, for the most part, has done right. Even this offseason, Dagger Dan wanted more playing time. That was public. Everyone knew that he wanted more playing time. What did we do? We said, hey, we don't think you can find the field here. We traded him to a team who's going to give him playing time. And he had a lot of positive stuff to say to us after it was all said and done. So I think we're not getting the full point here. I understand the situation that we're in right now and that Freeman really doesn't want to do it. But us having the U22 mechanism, which we didn't have pre-loaning Nico Rodriguez out, that now we do have. Now that we have that mechanism, we can go back to the table and say, hey, Alex, we can offer you a ton of money now. And if in your new contract, we'll put a stipulation that after the World Cup, when Villarreal or whomever comes back and calls and says, hey, we're ready to make this thing happen, let's make it happen, we go and do this, and we give them the opportunity to do that. Alex Freeman has said on multiple occasions he wants the club to get its credit, whether that's monetarily wise or whatever it is. I believe the kid when he says that. I don't think he's lying about that. So I think we're missing the point of we just think he's a shrewd guy because he didn't get the one opportunity. We're still going to give him the opportunity to go. We just have to phrase this in a different way than what we're doing it now.
Plus, I feel like, with all due respect, I think Villarreal sucks. I mean, I personally,
yeah.
Like I'd rather go to Botafogo, bro. I'd rather go to the Serie A Brazil. I'd rather go if I want to go to Spain, I want to go. I think the lowest, if I'm Freeman, Atletico Madrid. Like I wouldn't go like Levante, Villarreal. Like I wouldn't go Real Oviedo. Like I wouldn't go that because I wouldn't go Celta. Like or I would go to the UK, which is I think more parity there in a way when it comes to clubs. You can go to a Newcastle. You can go to it's always competing. Villarreal, I don't know. I think that it's up to Freeman in the end, right? I mean.
Absolutely.
But again, the U22, I agree. I think it opens another bargaining tool for Orlando to try to get him one more time. Keep trying.
Yeah, I want to make this clear. I'm not saying that this is 100% going to happen. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is, though, it gives Orlando City another option because, again, I don't want to be that guy, but this was another parting gift that Luis Muzzi gave us that kind of put the team in a really weird spot. And by those, I mean, he gave us Muriel, which wasn't a good contract. He didn't negotiate with Freeman as young as he should have to keep him on for longer, which I know a lot of people can say, well, we didn't know he was going to be that good and blah, 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 blah. Fine, but still, you didn't lock the guy up, so you missed that opportunity. The panic buy, and I know this was more of a 50-50 because Ricardo was in on this decision as well, but the panic buy of Adrian Marin going into it wasn't a good move either. So there's just a lot of those that, like, there's just a couple of things that just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, listen, at the end of the day, like you said, it's going to be Freeman's decision. And obviously, if he wants to walk in July, he can walk in July if he wants to. The thing is I think based on his character, he has more of in him to say, hey, I want to give back to the club who took a second chance on me. And I know sometimes in professional sports that doesn't go super far, but I think there's going to be a part of him that's going to say, at the very least, if he's not going to sign the contract, he might say to us this offseason, hey guys, sell me this offseason. We can try to work out a deal to maybe loan me back, because I know some people say they want to loan him back. But even if they don't do that, just, hey, sell me this offseason, sell me for $2 or $3 million, get something out of me so that we can get something out of this, and I'll do what I can to try to promote you guys or speak the best, because I don't think he has anything bad to say about the club, right? We gave him all the opportunities in the world to go do these things. And so I hope he makes the right decision. I hope for his playing career. I hope he's at the World Cup next year and all that kind of stuff. But I'm personally not going to hold anything against him unless he walks out of here and says, well, Orlando City, they're terrible, blah, 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 which I don't think he's going to do. So, you know, the young man's going to do what's best for him, and I hope he can figure it out.
Yeah, and again, it could go both ways. I just think that, you know, having the under 22 be
can't hear you, Luis.
Up, it opens another bargaining option for Orlando. And again, Orlando's going to try to do, I feel, what's best for the club and also what's best for the player. And we'll see. You know, I think in the end, it could come to either him walking, which is what it shows that could probably, you know, if you think about it, if you're a little selfish, you know, that could happen. But also his integrity, right? And we kind of, I think the fans and the fans that have seen him go to MLS Next Pro, have seen him through that whole process, can probably attest to his integrity. We'll see. You know, again, yes, it is. I think you mentioned it too. I think Alonso mentioned it too on the comments. Yeah, I think Orlando failed on extend but again, we could be doing the same thing with Thomas Williams, and nobody's saying anything. And you know what I mean? I mean, he could go and ball out for Nashville, and he could be a Alex Freeman 2.0, and we never knew. He never got 1 minute. So, you know, you know, soccer, it's a little convoluted in those type of situations. But again, we know we wish that Alex will stay, and we wish him the best if he decides to part ways. But either way, we're going to read some comments real quick. Says Frankie Cosmos, Villarreal has us by the balls and they know it. Vinco Ramos, good evening. I hope Orlando City does well next season. Greetings from Peru, says Vinco. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. Sitch Taylor, Freeman has to stay, in Orlando. There you go, Sitch. It says Orlando missed the opportunity to sign a new contract early in the season. They wanted to wait. That's when they messed up, because Freeman got called up to the U.S. men's national team.
I'm not arguing with you. I agree. And
I
to
agree
say
on
this
that.
as well, with Frankie, I don't think Villarreal has us by the balls. And the only reason why I say I don't think they do is because they're not the only team that are interested in Alex Freeman.
Yeah,
we
I'm
know that
sure.
for sure. They're the
Well,
only
don't
team that
forget
officially put in a bid, which makes the difference, right? We know that they're willing to bid for him, but they're not the only team that would be interested. So I think what would happen if we were to sell him this window, which is possible, we could sell him this window. I think once people hear that Villarreal are in on him again, and then other teams will start to jump in, we're going to naturally raise the price a little bit. Even if Villarreal didn't want to pay more, they're going to if they're going to get competed against. So again, it's not going to be the $10 million maybe we were hoping for Alex Freeman, but instead of 3 or 2, it might be 4 or 5 if they get into a bidding war. And all of a sudden we have a couple of teams coming in and saying, no, I want Alex Freeman. No, I want Alex Freeman. And then we kind of do that. I will say this. I don't think the loan back that a lot of people want is necessarily going to happen, unless it's going to a team like in the Prem that have a bunch of people in front of them and they were going to loan him anyway. I just don't see it happening. I think Villarreal probably would rather have him on the team to try to do it, or whoever else. If you're a championship team, let's say a championship team goes in for him, I think they would rather have Alex Freeman on the team and play for them than necessarily have him loaned out. So There's a couple of things there. I get that Alex has expressed interest in going to Villarreal, but money talks too. Villarreal is not going to be the only team that's going to come up and offer him money. A lot of these clubs are going to offer him a good wage.
With all due respect, again, Villarreal is, it's not like they compete to win. And again, let's go a little negative. Let's say Freeman bombs the World Cup. Let's say he plays he plays one game and then Pochettino benches him. All right, let's say worst case scenario, if he decides to stay with Orlando, he could still go. Let's say he signs and he can still go. Look, Orlando has the whole Blackstone group or whatever, the Black Rock, whatever, with Bournemouth. He has a contact with Bournemouth. I mean, I know for a fact by
Black Knight Group. That's what you're talking about.
Black Knight Group, the Black Knight.
Yeah.
So Black Knight Group, he can go to the Black Knight Group. We can go and talk to Bournemouth and be like, hey, are you interested in Freeman? He can also go there. We can go to Sporting Lisbon as well. Sporting Lisbon. And Sporting Lisbon it's one of the top teams there. So, I mean, there's just other options too that Orlando could do at that point. If he decides to stay with the team, if he decides to walk, then we're just saying, whatever happens. I think Alex also expressed he wants to go to Villarreal. Okay, well, if he wants to go to Villarreal, bro, he looked really horrible.
I think he just wants to go to Europe. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't know that it's specifically because of Villarreal. I think it's because what they're offering him and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. Europe comes calling, you're interested, for sure.
Yeah. It says, if I was Villarreal, I set an unreasonable loan back fee, make us choose between money and another year of Alex, says Frankie. There you go. But with that being said, we're going to be talking about players that are actually going to be staying, hopefully. And we welcome Luis Otávio, 18-year-old Brazilian defensive midfielder, who was signed from Internacional de Porto Alegre for $3.2 million as an under-22 initiative player on a deal through 2027-2028 with a 2028-2029 option. When it comes to, he's a highly rated Brazilian starlet, 28 first-team appearances, very technical, intelligent, very humble, have leadership qualities. He's definitely, at least to me, the ideal successor to Cesar Araujo. He's going to add depth and definitely future value. Obviously the cons and what people and pundits and also other people have said online as well. Some other worries is, his adaptation, maybe not only 28 appearances in Inter, a lot of people saying, he's not going to be a starter. He's going to be depth. He's going to have to adapt to the MLS. I really feel like, that's going to depend on Oscar at that point. That'll be an Oscar decision. I think the kid's ready. I've seen him play. I think he's a tremendous talent. I think him and Wilder are going to mesh pretty well. He's definitely a gem. He has undeniable potential, and definitely International fans were really sad to see him go, but truly understand that that's what's best for him, and because they see now that the MLS is a bridge of, getting paid more and making a really big splash, but also it's probably a league that can catapult you as well with less pressure than the Brazilian league, but it can catapult you to the end goal, which is playing in Europe, right? So what are your thoughts on this OCSC's investment in youth for Luis Otávio, David?
Yeah, I love it. I think both of our young moves have been really quality. I think we've really done a really good job at seeing what's down in Brazil and really trying to scrape the talent that's down there. I know we talked about it last week on last week's show, but spending the amount of money that we've been spending on these young players, this is something that we haven't really seen from Orlando City before. And I think we're taking it up another level. I know we talked about a little bit about Luis Otávio's performances and stats last week, But I think if you're a fan, don't be surprised if Otavio walks in and has a better start than Cesar Araujo did. Because if you aren't aware, Cesar came from a smaller club in Uruguay and the Wanderers, versus what Otavio is coming in with Internacional. And he played some serious minutes for Internacional, especially down the stretch until he got a knock and they were saving him for the sale. He's got everything you're kind of hoping for him to have. He's got confidence and composure on the ball. He's not afraid to get stuck in. He's really that destroyer six that you're looking for, who's really just going to get, down and dirty. He's going to get the ball. He's not going to give you a ton of cards. He really didn't collect a lot of discipline over his time there and things like that. So I think you're really going to be pleasantly surprised about him. I know I said this last week, but the only thing that you might see when you see him hit the field is he gets caught between two minds sometimes. And by that, I mean he gets caught between his lines. So when Internacional would go to counter press, they're not a pressing team, but they counter press at times. When they would go to counter press, he'd be a little slow to counter press. He'd be a little slow to rotate sometimes. He is very coachable, though, especially if you watch some of his games. He was always over at the touchline with his manager talking about, what to do next, where he should position himself and all that kind of stuff. So really mature and composed for an 18-year-old. If I'm Oscar Pareja, the first thing I do when I get to preseason and we start scrimmaging is you put this guy on the first team line, you stick him next to Wilder Cartagena, and you let this kid go through trials and tribulations as he gets used to the team. Let him fail in preseason where he should be failing so he can get used to the team. He can understand how his partner is going to play. And then obviously the dynamic between, okay, is Wilder going to go for that ball? No, I should. Okay, I'm going to go for that ball. Is he going to follow behind me? Is he going to slide into the back line? Because we know Wilder likes to slide in between the two center backs sometimes and kind of really play deep with the ball and things like that. So really get to know your partner super well. And then when you're not playing with Cartagena, get to know how Atuesta is going to play. Get to know how, if you're going to be next to Colin Gusky, if there's moments where you're going to be next to Colin Gusky, play next to all these dudes and hit the ground running and give him as much playing time as you can. I feel the same way, though, about Thiago. I think both players should be given as much playing time as they possibly can going into the preseason. We know what we're going to get out of Pasalic. We know what we're going to get out of Martin Ojeda. Give Spicer time, give Thiago time, give Otavio time to all get in there, get their feet wet, understand how this is going to be. And then I know I said this before, I really hope Orlando City is stacking their preseason schedule with quality opponents. Give them as many games as you can, stack some great opponents for these guys to play against. And I think they'll be off to the races in a really good spot by the time we get to opening day against the Red Bulls.
So tactically, just to complement what David G is saying here. So tactically, with Luis Otávio, personally, on a personal level, because I've seen him play in Serie A, 118 ball recoveries and 56 tackles won, the number one in his whole entire team. It's no joke. And I think we lacked that last season. I think the double pivot lineup gave us that because we had Araujo and we had Cartagena. Missing Cartagena was a big deal, and then having Araujo gung-ho wanting to leave, and then we already went through all this drama that happened, and then having Atuesta that we were a turnover machine. Over 800 minutes in the first team for Internacional. So the kid is like an anchor. And so with that being said, he could play here. So I'm going to put it right here. He could play as a sole number 6 with two midfielders on the side right here, like that. So this could be Atuesta and this could be Ojeda, or vice versa, right? Or he could do the double pivot, which Otavio will be here and then Wilder will be here.
Yep.
So he's versatile, and you can have Ojeda right here. And so you kind of give this flexibility to the coach to line up in certain situations depending on who you're going to play against. Flexibility in their lineup. And kind of not doing some crazy stuff that you've never done. You either will go double pivot or you go single pivot. with two
And
interior.
Luis, I think what you're going to see, Luis, if you can go back to the double pivot, if you have Wilder and Otavio next to each other, what you're going to see is Wilder, when he plays defensively, if I know it's been a while because he was out for basically the year, so we didn't see it. You're going to see Wilder drop in between those two center backs. So what's going to happen is defensively, you're going to see it as a back five, and offensively, you're going to see it as a back three. And the reason why they do that is because Wilder has the distribution, is going to be able to call the shots from the middle of the pitch and be able to spring the ball back and forth. What's going to happen defensively when that happens is Otavio is going to be given the freedom to drift left and right, up and down in the center of the field. So he's really going to own that middle third of the field when you're playing with this. I'm sorry for those that are not tactically inclined. I don't want to get in the weeds, but this is something that I really kind of feed on and look at. So really that middle third of the field that you're looking at, sort of where the striker is now, but the striker obviously attacking will be farther up the field. You're going to see Otavio be able to drift in between there. And that's where he did his dirty work for Internacional. Internacional would press a little bit higher with their wingers and with their striker, and it would leave sort of this middle third to be sort of policed by their central defensive midfielder, and that was Otavio for them. And so, and Otavio put some great work in, and like Luis said, his tackling numbers were great. His 1v1 defense was really great as well.
116 recoveries.
Yeah, and then the other thing that people aren't realizing is the kid can pass pretty well too. He's a really good medium, long range, and switch ability that a lot of people don't talk about. So that's something to really keep in mind. I got the stats in front of me. He's over 60% for medium passes. He's over 70% for long passes, and he's in the 83rd percentile in switches. So this guy can move the ball when he needs to move the ball. And so I think that's something to keep in mind is Otavio is he can play a few different roles at the six and be successful if you don't want to play the double defensive pivot. But I think to Luis's point, knowing Poppy well enough, I think you're going to see the double pivot start the season unless there are certain games where we really want to get after it.
So this, I mean, I'm just putting here some names.
Sure.
I mean, this could be a potential starting lineup thing for us for this season. Obviously, I'm putting a question mark.
I think Breclo's inside. I think Breclo's going to be moved inside. I think it's going to be Marion.
Oh, man, hopefully not. But yeah, you're probably right. So like again, this is what it's looking like. And there's a lot of versatility also in defense, like David was saying. And if you're listening, make sure you watch it on the YouTube channel. So if Marin goes here to protect Spicy T, and Brecolo moves more left, you know, with transition, like when the rival team is attacking you, Wilder can drop, and again, it becomes a line of what we call it a back three, which also could be called line of five. And then Otavio will just have full control here, literally with Ojeda kind of dropped. And then you don't lose. You put like it's kind of like you have more men in the middle because you have a line literally with Otavio and Ojeda. And, you know, obviously inadvertently Duncan is a player that also comes back. You know, and again, you have your wingers like Spicer and Paslich are probably going to be commanding your attack if they recover the ball. So let's say Otavio recovers the ball and then sees an opening for Paslich. Paslich is going to, you know, speed up, or Duncan could go forward, or Spicy. So it just becomes like a very good tactical option depending on the opponent. Like Inter Miami, for example, could be one of those. Or you could be conservative, which is kind of like what Oscar is in a way. A lot of the times he doesn't like to change much on certain things. And then you could put Otavio as your one pivot, Wilder as your second one, and then you know you have Ojeda as your 10.
And I think in games against like teams like Inter Miami, where you have a lot of star power up front, or if you're playing like an LAFC, you're going to want to keep a double pivot in the middle of the field with Otavio and Wilder, because then they're going to help you mark out the Messi on the other side. If the Lo Celso thing gets done, which it sounds like it's going to for Miami, you want those guys marked out, and that's what it's going to do for you. The biggest thing about Otavio is the kid can cover ground. Like, he knows how to cover ground, left to right, north to south. He knows how to do it. He can cover the ground. The only thing is, and I really want fans to be cautiously optimistic here. He's 18 years old, so he's going to make mistakes. He's going to get caught between minds. The hope is that because Oscar is such a good sort of like setting his team up in the right spots for defense, not saying the rest of the execution is great, but setting his team up for having the right people in the right spots, as long as he can coach Otavio up and say, hey, I need you to be here, I need you to drop here, I need you to go there, I think he's going to be more than fine. And like I said, I think his ceiling is higher than Cesar Araujo. That's not an insult to Cesar. I was a big Cesar like lover for most of the time he was here. It's just this kid has a lot of potential, and there's a reason why Brazil and more specifically Internacional didn't want to lose him. Like they're heartbroken that this kid is gone, especially for the low dollar amount that they keep saying that he went for. So it's just something to keep in mind.
So that says, I think Alex also, okay, I already read that. Thank you, Frankie. Landing. I really hope this preseason we have more games that fans can see. I hope so too. But I also hope it, I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of, I'm a little torn because we had a lot of injuries because of the preseason. We got Wilder out, we got Sukata out. And just to wonder what that could have been with them, you know, in the lineup at the beginning of the season. You know what I mean? Again, you know, you can speculate.
Yeah.
But again,
here's my thing. And as a fan myself, this is kind of the perspective that I have with it. I think a lot of the time clubs use the excuse of, well, we're testing things, we're trying things, we don't want people to see certain things. Here's the first thing I'll say. Other teams seeing what they do in preseason to hide that from them is BS. That excuse doesn't exist.
100%.
Teams have tape on all the other teams. That's not the reason.
Yeah, what
I think should happen though, and I think maybe this is what the club can maybe do a better job at. If you open more games to fans, which I think you should do anyway, we're here supporting the club day in, day out, whatever. Just tell them when they come to the game, hey, listen, we're going to let you know this game, you're going to see a lot of Orlando City B and a lot of the young kids, and you might see a Paslich or a Muriel or whatever, but probably not. Sorry, not Muriel. He should be gone. But a Duncan or whatever it is, right? Or if you're going to a game like when we played Atletico Mineiro last preseason, you can say to the fans, hey, we're going to bring the A squad. The A squad's going to play most of the game. We're going to rotate some guys late, but we're going to bring some guys in. You're going to see maybe at least a half with these guys, but then you're going to see us test some things and things like that. As long as you're just educating the fans and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Please don't judge too much into this. Just come and enjoy the game. That's all fans want. Like, sure, eggheads like me, myself, and you and John and stuff like that, we're going to sit there and break down everything. We're going to be like, okay, so Yearwood got on for 30 minutes. He looked good here. He did this. We're all going to break that down, right? Whatever.
Right.
But the more like fan that just wants to go there and enjoy, which is most fans, let them enjoy the spectacle. Let them go see it. It doesn't always have to be at Orlando City Stadium either. It doesn't have to be downtown. If you want to do it at Heritage Park and have them at the stadium over at Heritage Park, I've seen some nice preseason scrimmages over there before. Bring everyone over to Heritage Park and say, hey, come on over. Well, you know, we're only going to have a couple thousand people here, but if you want to come on out and do this with us, that'd be a great atmosphere, a great opportunity for the fans to see the players to say all the things. I think last year we got 3 games that we could see if you were a season ticket holder. I think it was a season ticket holder game, Monero, and then the sham derby in Tampa or whatever that was. I think those were the 3 games we got. I would love to see the club do 4 or 5 because we know we're not in one of these competitions that's happening at Coachella or one of the competitions that's happening in Europe where some of these teams are going to Europe to go train in the preseason. I'd love the Florida Cup if we could put together some kind of Sunshine Cup or something like that because a lot of teams come down here and do their preseasons and stuff down here. I'd love to see something like that. Probably too late at this point in the preseason, but let's get 3, let's get 4. I would love 5, but something that just gets the fans excited about what the season is, because we've heard how many fans are disappointed kind of going into the offseason, and so far, some fans still don't think we've done enough and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Give them a reason to get excited about the new guys. Let them go see the new guys for 30 minutes, you know?
I agree, you know, lowering the prices of the tickets as well when it comes to, you know, STMs got special pricing, then the general admission is a little lower because it's a preseason game. I think that'll probably be cool. Now, I think the front office is going to have to get creative because in 2027, the Orlando Jaguars are going to make the NFL is going to come to Orlando. Orlando is going to be the hub of sports. The Orlando Jaguars that are 11-4, and I'm calling them Orlando Jaguars because I heard per sources there's going to be a kit just for that year for the Jaguars. for Orlando.
Hmm.
And again, they're going to have to get creative with, post World Cup in the Jaguars, the NFL. How is Orlando going to compete having in one city NFL, NBA, and MLS?
Yeah, it's gonna be busy.
If we consider ourselves a big city, if we want to compete with those bigger markets, we got to start putting a good product now. So 2027, we'll have an even more attractive product, and also taking care of the fans, because, for example, like I already have friends that are like, yo, I hate the Jags, but I'm going to go. Like when they play with like Kansas City, when they play with the Giants, when they play with the Tampa Bay Bucks, I'm going to go, so we gotta, number one, never be afraid, always have confidence in our team, be there and support, but also you want to give the fans, again, quality, right? And so we're starting pretty early. Hopefully the front office continues showing that, but with that, we'll discuss kind of the MLS free agency, right? Kind of, you want to discuss that, David, about MLS free agency?
Yeah, so I think there's so really the thing I wanted to hit on, and if you haven't checked out the article already, I highly suggest that you do. Mike Ramajo sat down with Ricardo Morera a couple weeks ago, I think at this point, and put together a really great article about some stuff that they talked about in terms of how the season ended last year, how the offseason has started so far, and sort of what the club is looking to do. And that's where we get the information about, Ricardo wants to build a new culture, he wants to build a new locker room feeling. He wants to really invigorate the fans. He also said in that article that he wanted to be aggressive in free agency. And so far, we haven't really seen the fruits of that. Obviously, Carlos Coronel kind of ruined a big part of that, and that happens. And unfortunately, we hope it doesn't happen again. And I think it's a good lesson for Ricardo, right? I think what this says now is that just make sure you get the guy to sign on the line, before we start making any plans and things like that. But there's some other high-profile free agents that we didn't get, right? We didn't go for St. Clair, which happens because we decided Coronel was our guy. We didn't get Justin Hack. He went to LA Galaxy. We didn't go for Walker Zimmerman, which some fans wanted to see Walker in Orlando and would have maybe been a nice add to Orlando City's back line. There's a handful of guys that we haven't gone for. So I don't want to be Debbie Downer, and that's not why I'm bringing this up and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see that so far with MLS free agency, we've kind of struck out. We haven't done, the business I think that we wanted to do. And again, there's other factors that go into it besides just us wanting a player. But, it's something to reflect on to say, hey, MLS free agency is kind of cutthroat. It's tough to get the guys that you want to get when you want to get them. Because obviously this team can't be full of internationals. We can't bring in, to fill the rest of our spots, we can't bring in 8 more internationals and do that. We're not Miami, number one. But secondly, we don't have the international spots for it. So it's not doable. So we have to find, talent in MLS that's not going to take an international spot. But I think it's interesting because I think it gets us into the bigger conversation of like, how do we feel like the offseason is going so far? We're almost to January, right? The New Year's a couple of days away. So, where are we at? Preseason starts in 12 days, 13 days. So preseason starts rather soon. So we only have 2 center backs right now. We don't really have a starting left back because a lot of people are out on Adrian Marin, which is fine. We are assuming Muriel's going to go. So that means we only have 1 striker and Duncan McGuire. So we don't have another striker behind him. I think the only spots that are really set are your wing spots, central midfield. And then that's really it. I think a lot of other things are open because, again, you haven't succession planned for Alex Freeman yet, which you need to start doing as well, unless Taifi or Yearwood, if you sign Yearwood, are your answer there, which they may be. Left back, like I said, we haven't figured out. And at center back, we have 2 guys right now because we traded Thomas Williams to Nashville. So there's a lot of work to still be done. And as much as we've talked about this before, we need to get these guys in early into preseason. We can't wait for... we can't wait until late January and say, oh, well, the guy got here late, but, we're good. We're going to get them in and all that kind of stuff. And then they're not ready for the season opener, in February. How many times have we heard that, especially in the Poppy years of, oh, well, they just got here. They need more time. They need to meld. Oh, they have a little bit of a knock. Sorry, we didn't disclose it, but they've got a knock. And so they're going to be out for another week or 2 weeks. And then we're going to get them on the pitch and we're going to see what they're going to do. We got to get these guys in now. So and Luis, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. Personally, I think the offseason so far is around a C plus B minus. That's where I'm kind of floating right now. I think that's kind of where we're at. And I think what raises the level here, I would have been at a B if Coronel got signed, which again, it happens. But I'm at a B minus because I love the U22s we brought in. I think we've done a great job bringing these guys in. I think it's going to be a win for us getting Muriel off the books. So I think that's a big win too. And then Nico Rodriguez giving him playing time and getting to where he needs to be. But we still have so many holes and we're 12 days away from preseason. And so that's where I get a little concerned about what that looks like. Because Luis, if we bring in internationals, they're going to have to also get accustomed to MLS. And then they're going to have the waiting period for their visas and everything else that's got to get worked out as well. So I'm not sure how you feel about it, but that's kind of the camp that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the core of the team, obviously they kept a lot of the squad. There is definitely some positions that need to be addressed. Obviously for free agency is not closed yet. There's still a couple of good quality. It kind of depends on where the team wants to go, right? I mean, if the team wants to go young, that particular collegiate side, especially for the center backs, may be the answer. Now there's still some good quality, ready to go talent for MLS, which I do feel like they've been a little slow. Like for example, Zimmerman's are already out. A couple of good options are gone. There's still a couple of other options that they can. There's still, for example, Sebastian Leggett. If people are not ready to put all the eggs on Luis Otávio's baskets, Sebastian Leggett with Cartagena, 33-year-old. But then you're gonna say, oh, 33 is too old. That's something that the club is gonna have to. Joao Paulo with the Sounders. I know that he came back from injury. But, he was one that was pretty good. Paul Rothrock already signed till 2029 for the Sounders. So, there's still a couple of especially in the attacking, in the striker position. Like, we only have Duncan McGuire, guys. Technically, we only have Duncan McGuire. There's a talks of, Brenner, the option was declined. I don't know if he's even targeted or he wants to go back to Brazil. There's things that he wants to go to Brazil. Maybe we're going for that. Kai Kamara again. Maybe we sign Kai Kamara. Joseph Martinez. I know he's going to be booed if he gets signed, but again,
yeah, he's going to Tijuana, I think, right?
Yeah, Tijuana. Yeah, Club. Yeah, Cholos.
Yeah,
he's going to the Cholos at Tijuana. Yeah, but again, there's some quality, but also, it's kind of where the team is going to go, right? In the end, are they going to go young? Are they going to go experienced? It's just,
Yeah, and Luis, let me say this. I'm not out here ringing the alarm bell, guys. So please don't think that I'm like, oh my God, we're in trouble. Oh my God. I'm just saying that with the way that we built so far and so many people are out and things like that, I just want to give them as much time in preseason as I can, because we've heard, like I said, we've heard in years past, we need time to gel, we need time to meld, all that kind of stuff, right? The earlier you get these guys into preseason, the more time they're going to get to gel and mend with everybody and do all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge benefit to getting them in early into preseason versus bringing them in February, like the beginning of February, right? So do I think Ricardo's going to be able to figure it out? Of course. I'm one of the bigger ones online that have been banging the Ricardo drum of like, guys, let him cook. And if you haven't seen the meme already, it's floating around everywhere of him cooking and doing whatever, right? But the biggest thing is I just want these guys to come in with enough time so they can get bedded in, so we can have a solid squad. If this was the squad that we were taking into, if the season opener was tomorrow, of course I would be upset. We'd be in a bad spot, but we're not, and that's fine. But we need to start, when the new year flips over, we got to start cooking. We got to start bringing some more of these guys in. We need the depth pieces that, we haven't filled the depth out for yet. We might be looking for a DP to replace Muriel, which is most likely. So we got to get on the horn and start talking, finding strikers and finding guys who can put the ball in the back of the net up there. So there's some work to be done. So again, I'm not ringing the alarm. All I'm saying is that we got to start getting a little bit more on the front foot. We've been hit with a couple of blows now with Coronel, and we're going to lose Muriel and Nico Rodriguez, so we're getting punched a little bit. It's time for us to punch back a little bit and grab the guys that we're going to go grab and really fill out the team the way we need to fill them out.
When it comes to the free agency, I think forgetting the two Brazilians. If you ask me for a rating, probably I'm in the same boat, B-, C, right? I do feel like, based on what I've been told per sources, they already have stuff lined up in the pipeline. It's just ready to be announced, hopefully soon. Two of their main, and I think I mentioned on the last pod as well, two of their main, and they wanted to end the year with Freeman already say, hey, I'm staying. I want to sign something so you can get, we can deal something. They wanted to close that or work towards that to get that U22 freed up and get Muriel out of the door. So if those two, there's a possibility that it may happen by the end of the year. So we still have a couple of hours left by the end of the year. So the club, again, they want to end it. Now, obviously, right now you have to understand, the whole staff goes on vacation and things like that. Now, obviously, they work from their laptops, so they're still monitoring, from my understanding. But
oh, you're telling me Ricardo doesn't just turn the phone? He doesn't just turn his phone off. He just says, "Do not disturb" for a couple of days.
I mean, I would. I mean, I would. I mean, if I'm in the sports industry, I mean, I will always have my phone on, especially looking at other markets, but
I think people, I was making a joke, Luis, because I think people think that. I think people think like, oh, he's maybe not answering calls. Like, no, if somebody comes up, like if Spurs calls back and says, hey, we'll lower the price for Richarlison if you make this work, his phone's going to be on, right? Like it's not going to be a thing of like, he's not reachable. He's just not going to be, maybe he's on a beach doing it versus, in his office.
Yeah. And with that being said, obviously, with Luis Muriel kind of, taking a route for probably greener pastures, we have to understand that when it comes to the striking number 9 position, we are really depleted. I think Duncan is the only one that we have, and Orlando right now is going through significant roster changes. Obviously, Galeza is gone, Araujo's gone, and Muriel is probably out the door as well. Now, obviously, amongst ourselves, John and you, David, and I, we threw out some names, that we would like. I know that you at some point said Memphis Depay from Corinthians, and they're not doing so swell over there. I think with me today was Gabigol, right? Gabriel Barbosa from Cruzeiro. And then there were some rumors about Hulk, which is 39 years old. Hulk that plays in Botafogo. I don't know. I mean, I mean, if you want to talk a little bit about that before we close, I mean, we can end with that. Definitely, just my opinion, Gabigol will be a perfect fit for Orlando when it comes to what he's accomplished in the Brazilian league. He's the second highest Brazilian goal scorer in the history of that club. And Flamengo, it's the club with the largest fan base in the world. He's still 29, so he's in his prime. A few injury concerns. I think he'll be a cultural fit. And I see it as a potential low-cost acquisition. If you compare it to Richarlison, because Richarlison plays in the UK, he's going to cost way more, and with the likes of Fafa Picault, possibly, it's still in the, we're not going to be signing a Fafa Picault. I really don't think we'll be signing a Christian Benteke. Paul Rothrock is already taken. People make the argument, right? Richarlison, Gabigol. I mean, do you have any names that you want to kind of mention that may work, David, for our number 9?
Yeah, I mean, I like both. I like Gabigol a bit better than Richarlison. I will say I don't want to take away from Richarlison though. He's been on a heater lately. He's actually been playing really well for Spurs. Because I've said this before. I don't watch a ton of Premier League compared to other fans. Just never really had a team and the Premier League. But I've been watching a lot of Richarlison's games, especially when I notice he starts. I try to flip it on and watch a bit. He had a great game this past weekend, like really good. He got 2 goals called back for offsides and stuff like that, but he was really on the front foot, had some assists and things like that. I think what Richarlison gives you that maybe Gabigol doesn't give you as much of is that he's going to have the name recognition. He's going to get people in seats. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to get all that. But I think if you're looking for somebody who's going to bang in goals and really make that credit, I think Gabigol is that one. I'm still on Memphis Depay. Apparently stuff at Corinthians has gotten even worse from the last time I mentioned it. So it's something to look at. I think the other league that we should be taking a look at if we're not already, and I think MLS is a little afraid to do this, and I get to a degree why, is look at Liga MX. We play them at least one time a year in Leagues Cup. MLS has sold a fair amount of players to Liga MX. MLS keeps saying that they think they're on the same level as Liga MX, but we don't really buy a ton of players from Liga MX. We don't tend to we don't tend to get the good guys over there. There's a couple people over there that I would kick on, which I know he got linked to Miami, but Correa with Tigres. If you're looking at somebody that can play a little bit more wing as well, Alexis Vega with Toluca. These guys are going to cost you a little bit more money, but these guys are game wreckers. They're going to change the game entirely. They've been in North America though, so they understand kind of what this looks like. It's going to be a little bit different of a culture, of course, but those are guys that you can talk about. Plus, Poppy did coach in Liga MX for a while, so you have that benefit. That's there for you as well. So that's a place that you can look. But then there's also names that have popped up of people that want to come back over. So Talisca, who's with Fenerbahce, his contract's coming to an end with Fenerbahce. He's a guy that would come in and wreck the league if he came in and did that for us. I know he's more of an attacking mid, but he really could play striker probably in MLS and be fine. But he's a guy that I would take a look at. Another name that people will be familiar with and maybe have forgotten about for a while, Yakimakis, who used to play for Atlanta United. He's apparently on the block right now. Apparently Cruz Azul hasn't been happy with his play, even on loan. And so that's a player that if he wanted to come back to MLS, wouldn't be the worst idea to maybe see what he's been doing. He's had an okay season or seasons since he's been away from MLS, but he's going to know what the league is like. He's going to understand how to play it. He's always been a physical player, which I like as well. So I think you're getting somebody in that. So there's a few names out there that you really can kind of put some stamp on. I think the biggest thing though, that kind of what Luis said, it's got to be a cultural fit, right? For example, when we had Erkan Kara, he just didn't fit because he didn't fit culturally, I think you were trying to really fit a guy in there that didn't really work with what we were trying to build. I know Luis brought it up, but somebody like Hulk would be fun if he was a TAM guy or off the bench, but I'm not making him a DP. There's no way. But also for those of you that didn't know, Hulk played 4,000 minutes last season for Monero. He played for Atletico Monero last season. So I'm just saying it'd be a fun thing to think about. He's not the guy I'm necessarily targeting, so please, people, don't snip this out and say, "Oh, David wants Hulk." I'm not looking to bring in Hulk for that, but
I think Hulk.
Exist.
I think Hulk, when he was 32, I would have probably think, hey. But now at 39, I probably would not even, again, like you said, if it was Tam and is your third stringer, and then you have a top center back, a top center forward, and then you have Duncan, and then Hulk
perfect example. Perfect example. I told the boys today. He's your Julio Baptista. That's
right.
Who he'd
He's
be
like Julio Baptista,
in this case.
exactly right. Now, but I think a player like Gabigol, I think it just hits all the check marks in my opinion right now. Obviously, he's had a modest output after his move from Flamengo, around maybe 6 or 7 goals and maybe 3 assists in probably about 19 games. So kind of underperformed in Cruzeiro with expected goals. A lot of the Cruzeiro fans don't like him. But, he's been solid, not dominant, but solid. I think in the MLS, it could definitely fit. Surrounding him with people like Pasalic, Ojeda, and Spicer, man, that's going to be, that will just work magic, I feel. And again, it's obviously, we want somebody like Richarlison, strong contributions despite his injuries, 15 goals, in a season, assists, proven in high intensity European football. We certainly won that. Butts in seats. But I think with Gabigol, you get still that upside with him. You know what I mean? Because he's still 29, and so you still get that upside. And he could definitely. He's a proved champion. He knows what he gets doing. He's won multiple Copa Libertadores with Flamengo, so I mean he knows what it takes to win. And he's probably looking for a team that he can definitely be one of the leaders of. And I think it would be great. He's still at a good age, and I think maybe we can get more bang for a buck with Gabigol. And I think Richarlison, he had some. And again, Gabigol too. I feel both of them. They've had some outside, situations, of when it comes to discipline. But I think coming into Oscar Pareja's system, I feel that Gabigol. I mean, I know both tactically will work pretty well.
Yeah,
but I feel Gabigol will have a little bit of less ego. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Than Richarlison. And Richarlison is always going to expect to play, even if he doesn't score and gets judged on. He's going to be like, F off, he's going to tell the defense to F off. He's more keen to do that than a Gabigol, I feel, So, but again, we definitely need somebody, man. And I'm with you that we need somebody that's ready to play right now.
I'll throw out another name because I see Landon talking about how the Flamengo fans would love him, and I know there's a big Flamengo gathering here in Orlando.
And Ricardo's a Flamengo fan, so if you're watching, Ricardo, come on, man, bring Gabigol here.
Well, here's my other name, Luis. Also with the Flamengo connection, bring in Georgian de Ascareta. We were linked to him in 2017. He's been my crush in the Brazilian league ever since then. The guy has torn it up. I know he's an attacking midfielder, but I told this to the guys in the chat. I would love if either him or Ojeda played as a false 9 and then let those two cook in the middle of the field and they bang in goals, man. In this offense, they would bang in goals. Georgian would definitely bring in a ton of fans and a lot of hype and all that kind of stuff. Plus, he's a leader. He's a leader through and through. He's going to lead those dudes. And oh man, I could only dream so much. If you brought in this guy or Gabigol, I would be heaven, man. That's the kind of moves you're talking about.
Flamengo's a historic club. It's a massive club. I think it's the club that has the most fans in the world, by the way. And I'm telling you, you bring anybody that has played in that team, and they're definitely ready to win. I mean, that's one thing that you cannot get wrong. Not to discredit Richarlison, but I just feel like being the second, I think the second striker to score the most goals in the history of Flamengo. I mean, that's a big feat.
Well, and that's what we want. We want winners, right, Luis? That's the big thing. We want winners, and we want guys who can lead a locker room. Right. And I think these guys could both be it.
Yeah, because one thing that we've talked about it here, I think John mentioned it too, you've mentioned it as well, is that after Nani left, we haven't had that person that can carry out a game. Yes, we've had solid MLS starting quality players with the likes of Galese and even Schlegel and but this have not been like what Nani would give you. Minute 85, you're 1-0 down, all of a sudden Nani takes the ball and is like, hey, let me drives it, scores from distance. Like, we need that type of somebody that we can put the team behind, right? And I think Facu was a phenomenal player, but he didn't have that it factor, in my opinion. Even though he
was young, so I think the biggest thing is he was just young, and I don't think he had it yet. Because with Peñarol, he was never the guy, right? I mean, he was talented. Don't get me wrong, but he was never like the guy that like everything sort of melded around and played through and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're due time for a DP to come in here and really lead us. And I think the front office was kind of hoping maybe Luis Muriel was going to be that guy, and he wasn't, unfortunately. But I think we're missing, to your guys' point, we're missing a Nani, but I want the performance too. I want a guy who's going to go out there. He's going to lead the men. We all know Janssen's not here for the long haul. That's why we signed this shorter contract with him. So we need a guy who's going to replace him. I think Martin Ojeda is a great shout for the backup captain, like the second captain that you're going to have on the team. But I think we could do with somebody stepping in and like a Georgian or like a Gabriel or even Richarlison to a degree. These guys can lead men with a winning pedigree. Like when you put them on the field and they're like, hey, we're winners. We go win these things. We can lead the guys. That's why I lean more towards a, Georgian and a Gabriel versus a Richarlison, because those guys I think are going to be more leaders than they are, hey, I want to go perform on the field and bang in goals. They're going to do both. Both the first guys I mentioned, they're going to do both. But I think they're going to do both well, whereas Richarlison may be more focused on, let me just score, let me just make sure I'm the guy and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but this team needs leadership. It lacks leadership, it needs leadership. So that would be helpful if our DP could bring that for us.
Yeah, and we close with, obviously saying that, there's a perceived lack of aggressiveness when it comes to the free season. It could be a bunch of things, just like David said. It could be also market timing, with sometimes the deals ramp up in January, even though the free agency starts in December 10th. Again, that could be maybe a strategic patience, maybe, he has something cooking that we don't know,
Sure.
Also, we're going to go through some setbacks, like, David was mentioning with Carlos Coronel and, how that's a bum, and it is a bum, 100%. It's, completely bummed out of not having a top 3 level MLS goalkeeper. But, with 3 incomings already, maybe I would like to think on a personal note that they're building methodically, just trying to get rid of Muriel. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but just trying to get that DP spot taken care of, trying to, handle Freeman and make him sign. One thing I do want to say is that I feel like Moreira's vision, we can see it, and we're kind of on track, but maybe, the pace maybe reflects maybe not a lack of intent, but it's just more of like the off-season rhythm of like some of those pebbles on the road that we've gotten. Like, for example, Nico wanting to leave because of lack of minutes. Then, the whole Galicia situation, then the Coronel, all of that. Maybe that's it. I would like to think that's it. But again, just like David said, and I second what he said, we need people that are ready to win right now. We need people that are ready to step in and take the team to the next level. Because again, and I'm going to say it, guys, it's going to get complicated in 2027. People are going to have a lot of things to pick on when it comes for entertainment. And we need to start building the team now. Not wait till... Let's wait till this pans out.
You have 2 seasons. You have 2 seasons in 2027. You have the shortened season and the other one. So
truly, like, have that vision become something. Whether it's this year reaching playoffs and winning, the Leagues Cup, or winning the MLS and carrying it over to 2027. Obviously, that will make the club sell easier to many fans. When you win, you're more sellable. Obviously, you can sell more, but again, we want to continue that, because in 2027 hits, and we may have some dead matches if things don't change. Because the Orlando Jaguars are coming.
Yeah, and to close out, I saw Salty's comment of the fans are exhausted about building phase. Agreed. I'm exhausted with the building phase too, Salty. We've been building, quote unquote, for a long time. I think what makes this offseason different, and more than anything else, is you have a different guy at the helm. Ricardo has very clearly a different vision than what Luis Muzzi had. And I'm not saying what Luis Muzzi had was wrong. Obviously, we won a US Open Cup with Luis Muzzi and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I think Ricardo really has a keen effort on exactly the players that he wants to go for, and we have to give him the benefit of the doubt now, just because we're getting all these extra losses we weren't expecting. I don't know that the front office was necessarily expecting to lose Luis Muriel in the manner that we're losing Luis Muriel. I don't know that the front office expected that. I don't think the front office predicted that Nico Rodriguez was going to go through his agent and through his family and say, hey, I hate it here because I'm not playing. Like, why aren't I playing, right? I don't think they were expecting that to happen. I don't think they were expecting, and Ricardo says this in the article with Mike Ramajo, they weren't expecting to lose to Chicago in the play-in game, but they lost to Chicago, a team that was very talented that lost to Chicago. So what I would say to all fans is, and like Salty just said, be optimistic. There's a lot to love here, but it's okay to have cautious optimism because
100%.
there's still work to be done here. And
100%.
so keep the club accountable when you can, because we're going to need the club to continue to grow, because guys, 2027, besides all the other sports that are going to join the town, is a huge year. Because don't forget, we play the short and silly season in the beginning of that year so that we can get back on track to play the new schedule that's going to be out in 2027 into 2028. There's a lot of games to be played in that 27 season. And I think in order to cover over for it, don't be surprised if MLS makes a couple of roster tweaks, maybe a bigger roster size, maybe giving us more money so you can go out and sign a couple more quality players to get through that silly season. There's going to be some changes, I think, that are going to surprise
100%.
fans. So we need to cash in now on the season that we know so we can try to get something out of this. And a trophy, as Ricardo said, we're in 3 competitions this year. Ricardo says he wants to compete in all of them. So if we're going to do that, we got to build a team that's going to compete in the U.S. Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and the league.
100%. We're going to do some comments just to end the stream right now. Stream Jesus, sorry, my friend. It says, hello, Luis and David. What's good in the hood, my friend? There you go, my friend. Good to see you. Hopefully you had a great birthday. I wish you
happy belated birthday, Stream Jesus.
Happy belated birthday, Stream Jesus. Jeffrey O, it says, it's Mighty Morphine time or bust. Hold your horses, guys. We still have time.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Jeffrey OC needs an HBK up front, a Stone Cold Steve Austin in the mid, and somebody sounding like the Undertaker in the back line. You're completely right, man. You can't get wrong with that.
What about John Cena? He's retired now. We can bring him in.
There you go. You can see him.
Right.
We can sign Joseph Martinez after he terrorizes for years. There you go. I'll take Gabigol 100%. 6'7". There you go. Gabigol could also put butts in seats. All the Flamengo. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. The fans are excited of the building phase. Thank you, Salty. Appreciate you. I'm optimistic. Yeah, I mean, honestly, look, we're not here to, like Dave was saying, Davey down it, but we also want to speak we'll be real, right? And I think last season, there's a little bit more salt in that one because the rival won the league. If it could have been any other team. But you know that team, I'm not even going to mention the team, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a little bit more salt in our wound. And I totally feel the fan base on that level because it sucked for me too. As a journalist,
and they're getting better, Luis.
Yeah,
and they're getting better, which is even scarier. So again, we have to keep pace.
I know that Weavy said get creative, right? And that was the wording he used. And with this, I end. It's a little more than that, I feel, but I feel like now with us freeing up all these roster spots and fans feeling, oh my God, what are we going to do to fill them up? I think we're ready to start playing some of this game of being smart when it comes to some of the U22 roster spots. Be a little on that side,
loans.
Be more creative, more
and loans, which you haven't done.
More in with the times, I feel. So, well, we wanted to thank you. We're running a little late for the Pride Pod, but I wanted to thank David as well for joining. I wanted to thank everybody that joined today, over 100 people live. We thank you for your support. We're Loud and Proud Orlando. We're on X at LP_podcast, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts if you're going to listen to us as well. Also, we want to give a shout out to our friend John. I know that he's spending good quality time with his family for the new year. I know that he had to go and had a family.
Hope you're enjoying it, John. Hope your family's good.
Hopefully John's enjoying it. Hopefully if he's listening, Happy New Year, John. Happy New Year to you too, David, if I don't talk to you.
Oh, thank you. You as well. Yeah.
Every single one of you, we wanted to thank you for this amazing new year we've had. I know we're going to be putting out a video, so stay tuned. We're going to be putting out a video probably of some of the best of LPO, and also you'll have another video on the 31st of wishing you a happy new year. Now, a lot of expectations for next season. Obviously, David is part of the team. You know, we're excited to kind of bring him on. I think he brings a lot of a different other vision than John and I. So I think that's going to be fantastic, and we complement very well. Pride Pod also, we're going to have some good news hopefully soon to share with you. And yeah, I mean, the you've made this possible for this outlet to grow. We ain't stopping. We're very committed to continue providing good content. And again, every interaction, every comment, you know, and again, we agree to disagree sometimes, but what we all care about and what we all want is for Orlando to be thriving, right? And so in the end, that's what unites us, and we thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we thank you for all your support, and it's been like almost 4 years now from LPO. It's been 4 seasons, so it's tremendous what we've accomplished so far. And every single person, Paola, you know, the former panelists as well, that have been part of the show, have also helped the growth of the show. So we kindly also wish them a beautiful happy new year. Hopefully everything goes well. And again, guys, stay tuned. We're going to have a couple more videos coming up this week. And again, thank you, David. Thank you, guys. And vamos, Orlando.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys in the Pride Pod.